Raiders, Jets. Our team has the latest on this original AFL matchup. And Ed Graney talks to UNLV Athletic Director Desiree Reed-Francois.
The same kinds of challenges.
Our fast takes and smart coverage coming at you right now on Vegas Nation Game Day.
This is Vegas Nation Game Day. Brought to you by Meineke and your local Meineke dealers. When you shop for quality, shop Meineke.
MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey won't have fans today, but it will have football. We are just over an hour away from the Raiders kicking off against the New York Jets. Good morning and welcome into this episode of Vegas Nation Game Day. I'm your host, Cassie Soto, and I'm joined again this week by Review Journal sports reporter Sam Gordon.
Thanks, Cassie. The Raiders' path to the playoffs hit an unexpected speed bump last Sunday with a 43-6 battering at the hands of the Atlanta Falcons, and now they look to get back to their winning ways against the Jets team that, believe it or not, is still looking for its first win of the season in early December.
That's right, Sam, and we are so glad that you are joining us today, whether it's on Cox Your View, Facebook, YouTube, or VegasNation.com. Our show is going to look a little bit different from our normal shows, but one thing that won't change is our commitment to fast takes and smart coverage as we get you ready for today's game. With that, it's time for some storylines. Of course, Raiders quarterback Derek Carr said he wanted to burn the tape, Sam, from the Falcons game, and we're just happy to skip over that game today. So let's go ahead and talk about the Jets. What do you see from this game?
Well, Cassie, we know how important this game is, where the Raiders are in the thick of the wild card race at 6-5. Of course, the Jets, again, 0-11. They have not won a game. So this is a Jets team that struggles defensively, it struggles offensively, it struggles all over the field. And frankly, the Raiders cannot afford to have another letdown in East Rutherford today. I expect a much better effort coming off of a performance the way they got beaten in Atlanta. I do not expect a repeat performance. I expect the Raiders to be a lot more crisp against the Jets team that at this point in the season has very little to play for. So we'll see what happens, but the Raiders have a decisive advantage going into this game. They're the better offensive team. They're the better defensive team. They're the better coach team, frankly, and this is a game that they should win if they want to make the playoffs.
Our next storyline, Sam, the Raiders will be without running back Josh Jacobs and safety Jonathan Abram today. This is a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. But without Jacobs, the Raiders still have a very, very capable backup in Devontae Booker, who's averaging 5.5 yards per carry. That's a career high. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's a punishing runner, maybe not quite as powerful as Jacobs, but he can do a lot of the same things. And the coaching staff talked all throughout the season and even during training camp, when identifying a backup running back, they wanted to bring somebody in that was similar to Josh Jacobs. Devontae Booker's big, he's physical, he's versatile, he can do a lot of different things. So I expect him to get a full workload today. As far as safety position is concerned, you're going to see a lot of Jeff Heath, a lot of Eric Harris. Jonathan Abram, of course, has been a staple in that secondary this year, but again, he is out. So look for those guys, Heath and Harris, and maybe a little Dalvin Levitt sprinkled in to make some plays in that secondary on that back end.
And Abram just brings a certain kind of energy to this team, does he not, Sam?
Yeah, he definitely does, and that's kind of his strength. I mean, what he lacks in discipline and what he lacks sometimes in just kind of, I guess discipline. That's probably the correct word. He makes up for with speed, with energy, with ferocity. He's the kind of guy that can make a hit behind the line of scrimmage. He can make a big play. He can make a big pass breakup that really energizes the team. He plays with a lot of fire. And again, Cassie, like you said, with no fans in East Rutherford at MetLife Stadium today, the Raiders are going to have to look to themselves, find that fire within without one of their defensive leaders.
Right, well, we know that the Raiders were hit hard by COVID-19 recently, but the team is welcoming back multiple players from the reserve list. Let's hear from them on what their experience was like battling the coronavirus.
I was somewhat prepared mentally already as to if I were to get the virus. So when I got it, yes, it was a bummer, but I was like, okay, I was prepared mentally to the point where it wouldn't crush me. I knew I was going to come back from it. And now I'm at the point where it's just like, I feel really good. Obviously I got to get my conditioning completely all the way back. But at the same time, the mental focus is, I think when I go 2 weeks without playing, it ain't really nothing stopping me from really caring about what the virus got. All I care about is I want to get back on the field and ball. You know what I mean? we're trying to get to the playoffs, Super Bowl. That's all that really matters. So that's kind of overpowering any other self-doubt that I could have about the virus still affecting me, if that makes sense.
I had mild symptoms, thankfully, me and my family. So we all stayed together. We made it through it pretty unscathed and okay. I probably got it the worst. I still can't smell anything, which kind of sucks. But other than that, I'm all good.
With another 10 a.m. kickoff this week, bettors have just about an hour to get their wagers in, and Review Journal sports betting reporter Todd Dewey is here to help. He joins us now from the Mirage Sportsbook. Todd, before we get to today's line, what did last week's just blowout loss by the Raiders do for the casinos?
Oh, it was a big win for the books last week as bettors loaded up on the Raiders. That was the most popular game last week. Tickets and money were all over Las Vegas and that debacle. But the Raiders are still all, bettors, I should say, are still all over the silver and black today against the Jets. The Raiders opened up as 8.5-point favorites. The line went up to 9 before ticking back down to 7.5 now, after the news that Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Abrams would miss the game. Oddsmaker I spoke with told me they can't get anybody to bet on the Jets except the so-called wise guys. And a pro sports bettor I spoke with told me he didn't bet on the game, but if he did, he'd lean to the Jets based on the Raiders' injuries. The total is down from 48 to 47 and a couple 46.5s out there. These are two of the 5 worst scoring defenses in the NFL. Combined, they allow 58.3 points per game, but the Jets have the NFL's most anemic offense, averaging only 13.8 points per game. If the Raiders win, they could help the Jets make some history this season, but not the kind you want to make, as they could join the Lions and the Browns as the only NFL franchises to finish 0-16 in the regular season. Las Vegas books are offering a prop on that. Would pay a $100 bet, would pay $125. I like that bet, Cassie. Hope all your wagers are winners.
We're betting on the over here, Todd. Thank you so much. Well, remember, Todd's betting recap and NFL Bad Beats blog by Jim Barnes can be found at reviewjournal.com. Still to come, we take a look at social media. But first, here's this week's trivia question. NFL Trivia is presented by Attack Law. The best defense is a good offense. Which of these stadiums was never home to the New York Jets? A. Giants Stadium, B. Polo Grounds, C. Shea Stadium, or D. Yankee Stadium?
Stay on the winning page with fan fave Las Vegas Review Journal to receive Vegas Nation content, plus breaking news, local entertainment, and lifestyle coverage. For only 99 cents a week, you'll get home delivery plus unlimited access to LVRJ.com. However you like it, whenever you like it. Award-winning content, all at your fingertips. Subscribe today at mylvrj.com/superfan.
Vegas Nation Blitz is your weekly source for Raiders news.
We're going to stick together, bond together. We're going to make some changes.
Vegas Nation Blitz brings you fast takes and smart coverage.
When you look at the drop passes, that's concentration. It's not talent.
Vegas Nation Blitz, new episodes airing every Wednesday at 8 p.m.
Our Vegas Nation podcast keep you up to date with all things Raiders. Get your week going with First and 10 on Mondays featuring Sam Gordon and Vinny Bonsignor.
Who you can count on to make a big play when you need one.
Wednesdays, Heidi Fang brings you in-depth interviews with Raiders players and personalities.
You know it's a great challenge.
On Fridays, get your dose of Raiders talk and musings from Ed Graney and Adam Hill with unsportsmanlike content.
Should there be any discipline? No. People are going to get it, and that's fine.
Vegas Nation, fast takes, smart coverage.
Field Pass is sponsored by Scenic Brewing Company, your neighborhood brewery and sports bar. With a different type of field pass this week, here's Heidi Fang.
I hope you're ready because I have a ton of information for you on COVID-19, changing protocols, and also schedule moves as of week 13 based on everything that happened in week 12. Let's start with Ravens Steelers. Over 12 players had actually tested positive for the virus. So we saw that game flexed out to Wednesday. The Denver Broncos also had to start someone nobody ever heard of, Kendall Hinton, that coming after 4 quarterbacks landed on the COVID list for the Broncos. Jeff Driscoll was the player who tested positive, and the remaining Broncos quarterbacks had not worn masks around him. So all of those quarterbacks were placed into quarantine before the game. To call this unprecedented times is an understatement. So unprecedented, in fact, that we will not see the 49ers play out 2 of their home games in Santa Clara. This coming after Santa Clara County official issued a ban on contact sports. So the 49ers will actually head down to Arizona to play out their next 2 home games. The Rams and the Chargers may have to make a similar move and play their home games at Allegiant Stadium. This week, more changes came out, not just with the schedules, but also with some rules. On Thursday, the NFL sent out a memorandum stating that they would lift this 62-player travel restriction. Now the teams can decide how many players that they bring with them. Teams will still have to abide by the rule that restricts them from entering their practice facilities any 2 games after they have played a game. So let's take the Raiders, for example. The Raiders are playing the Jets on Sunday. They cannot meet in person at their team headquarters until Wednesday. Let's get into some of the schedule changes as well. Monday, we'll have a double header. We're going to see the Steelers take on the Washington football team and the 49ers playing in Arizona, as I mentioned earlier, against the Bills. On Tuesday, there will also be more football. That contest will feature the Baltimore Ravens and the Dallas Cowboys. And now, everybody, keep watching as we are joined with Eddie Borsilli from SiriusXM NFL Radio and the Yards Per Attempt podcast host as we delve into the struggles that we've recently seen out of Derek Carr and if he is the man for the Raiders in the long term.
He's everything that John Gruden wants in a quarterback. He's smart. He's athletic. He can do those things. And like you said, he's had a ton of different coaches. If you take the Atlanta Falcons game out, he's had his best year to date. He finally has weapons. You have Henry Ruggs on the outside. You have Aguilar. You have Waller. You have Jacobs. It's easy to say you bring another quarterback in and everyone's going to have tons of success. I think he's the quarterback of the future. I think he's the quarterback that John Gruden wants.
This team right now 6-5, but I think good enough to actually make one of those wild card spots. If you had to analyze what you've seen with the team, what's going to work for them down the stretch, what do you put your finger on here?
The problem is, Heidi, the AFC wild card and the AFC playoff picture is so jammed with teams right now. Look, you're going to have a 10-win team possibly missing the playoffs, and that kind of sucks because you're gonna look at your record and say I'm 10-6 and I'm missing the playoffs while a 6-10 Eagles team is in the playoffs. So they got to take care of business. They can't have any screw ups. You screw up versus the Falcons, that's fine. You got to win. You got to go 4-1 in your next 5 games. You got to take care of business. You have Chargers, Broncos, and Jets that people call winnable games, but they're still NFL games. And you have games against the Dolphins and Colts. That game versus the Dolphins that got moved to Saturday night is going to be a monster game. That could be basically an elimination game for the Raiders right there. That could be a win and you're in type scenario. If there's any other year, I give the Raiders a good chance. That slip up to the Falcons, even though it's against an NFC team, a non-conference team, it might come back to bite them.
Thanks, Heidi. Now let's go ahead and flip the field with Ed Graney, who has these insights on the Jets from someone who covers them full time.
Hey, thanks, Cassie. Yeah, it is Flip the Field for the New York Jets. We're pleased to be joined now, though, by Andy Vasquez. Andy's from The Record, NorthJersey.com. It's part of the USA Today network. Andy, thanks very much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, listen, so we're going to go Jets here, and I know today we're talking on Thursday of this week. Adam Gase came out and talked about Sam Darnold today, and it was interesting that Coach Gase said he didn't think that he had developed Sam Darnold to the level he had hoped. When you first heard it, is this Adam Gase thinking, look, I know what's probably going to happen to my job status at the end of the year? Is this Adam Gase throwing some shade at his quarterback? How did it come off to you when Coach Gase talked about Sam Darnold this way?
I think it's just gotten to the point where it's kind of ridiculous that he hasn't acknowledged reality. So I think he's probably aware of that at this point. And it's been 23 months since he's been hired. He hasn't really ever said anything like this. So to the outside world, it might seem kind of insignificant because it's obvious that he hasn't developed Sam Darnold, but it's very significant because he's acknowledging it. And I think, he's kind of developed a reputation at this point as being a guy who makes a lot of excuses, isn't really operating on reality and kind of operating on his perception and protecting that by making excuses and whatnot. So I think this was kind of an acknowledgement of what's happening, and he was careful not to blame Darnold, which I thought was also interesting, and noting that there's been a lot of struggles around him and the injury stuff and all of that, and so there were other excuses, but he also did take responsibility himself and said, I haven't done a good enough job of coaching. So yeah, it was different, and I thought it was notable because it was a decided change of tone.
That's one quarterback. We know about the other in Trevor Lawrence, the Clemson quarterback. Is there a Jets fan alive who's not excited? Is being 0-11 okay with them because they likely know what's coming in terms of Trevor Lawrence next year?
Yeah, I think for Jets fans, being 0-11 is good on a couple counts because they know that Gase is going to be gone. They do not like him, and they have not liked him from the beginning. And yeah, it does at this point. They're in very good shape for getting the number one pick. But I think as Jets fans there's some trepidation there because with one loss right now, they would end up being even with the Jaguars, and the Jaguars would have the strength of schedule tiebreaker, so they could lose the number one pick pretty easily. But I think Jets fans are more comfortable right now than they were a few weeks ago because really there's some space between them and number 3. So either way, they're going to have a chance to get a quarterback. And so even though it may not be fair to Darnold, who the Jets have done a terrible job of surrounding with protection and talent, it makes sense for them going forward. So yeah, I think Jets fans are as pumped as you can be for 0-11.
0-11. Finally, it's an 8.5-point spread out here. The number's rising. Money seemingly is going to the Raiders. Somewhat shocking given their performance last week, but it's the Jets. And yet last year, 34-3, Jets took it to them in the rain.
Right.
I think for Raider fans, the question is, are the Jets still playing hard? I know the fans want Trevor Lawrence. I know Gase probably knows he's gone. But what can the Raider fans expect to see from the Jets players who are still there and playing?
Right. So they are not good. Like they're really, really bad. They're a bad football team, but they do play hard. They're thinking about it. They do not want to go 0-16. They're going to play very hard. I don't know if that'll matter. I mean, I think it's a bad situation for the Jets with the Raiders knowing what happened last year and also coming off a terrible loss last week. I think a lot of things play in the Raiders to the Raiders' advantage here, but I do think that the Jets are going to come out and play hard. And if the Raiders show up thinking it's going to be a mail-in game, that it's not going to be like that.
Andy, great stuff. We really appreciate it. Be well and be safe.
Thanks for having me, and same to you.
Thanks very much. Well, there you have it, guys. Now let's check in with Leandre Fox and see what's happening on social media.
This social media update is sponsored by D&R House of Diamonds, making luxury affordable.
What's up, everybody? Hey, last week I pitched you all on the Derek Carr Raider logo, and I apologize. I think I might have disrespected the Shield, and you might be able to blame last week's blowout loss on me just a little bit. If you are interested in what that logo looks like on some apparel, Heads Up Customs on IG has you covered. But hey, let me make it up to you all. Let's relive one of the big moments from last week's game with Josh Jacobs sending Darqueze Dennard airborne. He was penalized on the play, so it wasn't necessarily a positive, but it's a highlight. Jacobs hit him with that ludicrous get back, you don't know me like that. And speaking of Raiders and music, a couple weeks back on Blitz, we told you, hey, the Pro Bowl voting is open. And the Raiders social team got a little bit of creative while campaigning for the team's rap representative, Darren Waller, with an unguardable mixtape promo video. Waller spent a lot of this week on Instagram showing love to the fans of his music who had him in their 2020 Spotify Wrapped and Apple Music Replay playlists. It would have been pretty dope if that was the rollout for some new music from D-Wall, but while we wait on that, the Pro Bowl voting is open. So hey, Raider Nation, get your votes in. Now I have a question for you all at home. How would you react if AJ Cole broke your finger? Because for a user on Reddit, that happened last Sunday. Of course, it wasn't done on purpose or with malicious intent. The user posted that he was able to work with some of the Raiders training staff on behalf of the Atlanta Falcons, and he praised the silver and black. He also said he got to overhear Carr and Gruden throughout the game, but during the pregame warmups, while he was catching punts for Cole, he broke his finger. He said it's a funny story he has now, and I can almost guarantee that if a Raider broke some of your fingers, a lot of you would wear it as a badge of honor. Coming up after the break, my man Sam Gordon's got the number on the JETS offense, or what little of it there is. And it's My Cause, My Cleats week for the NFL, so we'll be checking out the heat the Raiders are rocking and the causes they represent. All that and more coming up after the break. Keep it locked here on Vegas Nation Game Day.
Stay on the winning page with Fan Fave Las Vegas Review Journal to receive Vegas Nation content, plus breaking news, local entertainment, and lifestyle coverage. For only 99 cents a week, you'll get home delivery plus unlimited access to LVRJ.com. However you like it, whenever you like it. Award-winning content, all at your fingertips. Subscribe today at mylvrj.com/superfan.
Vegas Nation Blitz is your weekly source for Raiders news.
We're going to stick together, bond together. We're going to make some changes.
Vegas Nation Blitz brings you fast takes and smart coverage.
When you look at the drop passes, that's concentration. It's not talent.
Vegas Nation Blitz, new episodes airing every Wednesday at 8 p.m.
Our Vegas Nation podcast keep you up to date with all things Raiders. Get your week going with First and 10 on Mondays featuring Sam Gordon and Vinny Bonsignor.
Who you can count on to make a big play when you need one.
Wednesdays, Heidi Fang brings you in-depth interviews with Raiders players and personalities.
You know it's a great challenge.
On Fridays, get your dose of Raiders talk and musings from Ed Graney and Adam Hill with unsportsmanlike conduct.
Should there be any discipline? No. People are going to get it, and that's fine.
Vegas Nation, fast takes, smart coverage.
NFL Trivia is presented by Attack Law. The best defense is a good offense. The answer is D, Yankee Stadium. The Jets moved from the Polo Grounds to Shea Stadium in 1964 and then to Giants Stadium in 1984. Welcome back to Vegas Nation Game Day. I'm your host, Cassie Soto. Let's take a deeper look at the 0-11 Jets with our Vegas Nation teammates Heidi Fang and Vinny Bonsignor.
Yeah, thanks, team. It's Heidi Fang here with Vinny Bonsignor, and we're going to give you our overview of what to expect as the Raiders look at facing this Jets team. Vinny, the defense on the Jets, probably not at the top of the charts in the NFL, so how does the Raiders offense look to attack this team?
First and foremost, they got to establish a run game. It's what they didn't do against the Atlanta Falcons for whatever reason, so they need to fix that in a hurry. There are some pretty good players on this Jets defense. Greg Williams, their defensive coordinator, is a KG veteran who's always got something up his sleeves. Q Williams in the middle of the Jets defense is as good as it gets as far as a young player that's on the upswing as a force in the interior. So the Raiders are going to have to account for him. Their speed in the defensive backfield, they get after it defensively. They do some clever things. So the Raiders offense is going to have to be patient in trying to get it all figured out. But first and foremost, they got to get physical again up on the offensive line and control that aspect of the game. If they can do that, then I think the Raiders offense will be okay.
I think defensively they need to bring that much physicality as well. What do the Raiders do up front to get into the Jets' face here?
Well, I think getting Cleve Farrell back helps, and he's had 2 weeks to practice now. If he's right physically, he's going to bring an edge that the Raiders sorely missed these last couple of weeks at defensive end, even not just in the run game, but also getting pressure on the quarterback. We'll see if Nick Beasley is going to play. That's still up in the air right now. If he can and provide some pass rush juice, all the better, because I think everything after that is predicated on getting some pass rush, because it helps the linebackers, it helps the defensive secondary, and especially now without Jonathan Abram, that secondary is going to need a lot of help up front, creating some disruption on the quarterback to make life difficult for Sam Darnold.
All right, there you have it from Vinny Bonsignor, our Raiders beat writer. Now back to you, team, in the studio.
Thanks, Heidi. Sam Gordon joins us now. Sam, you have looked at the numbers as you do every week. What do you have for us today?
Well, thanks, Cassie. We touched on the New York Jets defense on Wednesday during Vegas Nation Blitz, but this numbers segment is dedicated to New York's offense entirely. The Jets ranked 31st last season in offense, and they're even worse this year, ranking 32nd in yards among the 32 NFL teams with 267.8 per game. They're also dead last in scoring offense, 13.8 points per game, more than 5 points behind the Denver Broncos, who rank 31st. They can't run the ball. They rank 26th with 97.5 yards per game, and they can't throw it either. They're last in passing yards with 171.4 per game and 30th in touchdowns with 9. Quarterback Sam Darnold is last among qualified passers with a quarterback rating of 64.0, and he's playing behind an offensive line that can't protect him, yielding pressure on 27.9% of his dropbacks. That's the third highest rate in the NFL. He also throws picks on 3.7% of his pass attempts. That's the second highest mark in the NFL, according to Pro Football Reference. And of course, the Raiders defense, last season made that 31st ranked Jets offense look like the greatest show on turf during a 34-3 loss. If they do that again today, they likely don't deserve the playoff spot they're competing for. Look for the Raiders defense to take advantage of the worst offense in football, and if it doesn't, Las Vegas may be in some trouble.
In some big, big trouble, Sam. Well, Raiders fans, we know you love showing your support for the Silver and Black, and we want to reward you for it with some swag. It's the Vegas Nation Fantastic Photo Contest. Just post your photo with the hashtag VNWeek13 to enter. The winners are selected each Monday, and this week, our photos definitely have a theme here. Sam, let's go ahead and pop them up. Look at that pup right there, Sam.
Oh, adorable, adorable. My heart, Cassie.
Yeah. Let's just go through these. Let's see these good boys or girls. Let's see. Oh, look at these little friends.
Yeah, a couple of them this time.
I love the big dog, little dog combo. I'm a little biased there, personally.
That's a good. I think that dynamic works well. It's a really good dynamic,
it
especially
does.
in that picture.
It so does. Let's see. Oh, look at this cool guy.
The Jays. Whoa. They're killing me with those. Okay.
That's some swag right there if I've ever seen it,
yeah,
Sam.
Real, for real.
Well, for the 5th year in a row, the Raiders are taking part in a very special program to raise awareness for some special causes.
That's right, Cassie. Today, the players will be wearing custom-designed kicks as part of the NFL's My Cause, My Cleats campaign. Their causes cover everything from social justice to cancer awareness.
And 2 Raiders players had their cleats designed by the people tied to their causes. Safety Eric Harris will wear cleats that were designed by a member of the After School All-Stars of Greater Las Vegas. And linebacker Corey Littleton chose multiple sclerosis as his cause, and he worked virtually with an artist who is fighting MS to come up with the design for his shoes.
Quarterback Derek Carr, whose son Dallas was born with an intestinal disorder, is raising awareness for Valley Children's Healthcare. And defensive end Max Crosby is supporting an animal rescue through the Stand Up for Pits Foundation. We are just about at halftime of this edition of Vegas Nation Game Day, but our fast takes and smart coverage will continue after the break.
That's right, Sam. J.R. Starkis will show us how to make the latest version of his Vegas Nation cocktail. And Ed Graney will talk with UNLV Athletic Director Desiree Reed-Francois about what it's like seeing her football team play inside Allegiant Stadium. And Kevin Cannon, our guy Kevin Cannon, is back on the road as he helps ring in the holiday season. Stay with us.
Stay on the winning page with Fan Fave Las Vegas Review Journal to receive Vegas Nation content, plus breaking news, local entertainment, and lifestyle coverage. For only 99 cents a week, you'll get home delivery plus unlimited access to LVRJ.com. However you like it, whenever you like it. Award-winning content, all at your fingertips. Subscribe today at mylvrj.com/superfan.
Vegas Nation Blitz is your weekly source for Raiders news.
We're going to stick together, bond together. We're going to make some changes.
Vegas Nation Blitz brings you fast takes and smart coverage.
When you look at the drop passes, that's concentration. It's not talent.
Vegas Nation Blitz, new episodes airing every Wednesday at 8 p.m.
Our Vegas Nation podcast keep you up to date with all things Raiders. Get your week going with First and 10 on Mondays featuring Sam Gordon and Vinny Bonsignor.
Who can you count on to make a big play when you need one?
Wednesdays, Heidi Fang brings you in-depth interviews with Raiders players and personalities.
You know it's a great challenge.
On Fridays, get your dose of Raiders talk and musings from Ed Graney and Adam Hill with unsportsmanlike conduct.
Should there be any discipline? No. People are going to get it, and that's fine.
Vegas Nation, fast takes, smart coverage.
Welcome back to Vegas Nation Game Day, presented by Meineke and your local Meineke dealers. When you shop for quality, shop Meineke.
Cassie, the Raiders' performance last week probably made a lot of fans want a stiff drink.
No doubt, Sam. And if you need one for today's football viewing, hopefully not for a blowout, a Raiders blowout, J.R. Starkis has a Vegas Nation cocktail just for you.
Welcome back, Raider Nation. J.R. Starkis here with your Week 13 cocktail called the Basil Gimlet. Now, typically the Basil Gimlet would be a gin cocktail, but today we're going to make it with tequila. It's no surprise to anybody that knows me that I love tequila and that my favorite margarita variation is made with Roca Patron Silver. This is going to be a version of a margarita, but basil influenced, simple as that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take 3/4 ounces of simple syrup, basically just replacing the agave nectar in a margarita, and we're going to take 4 or 5 fresh basil leaves and put them in our mixing glass. Now we're going to give this a little muddle. We put the basil in with the simple syrup to make sure that the oils from the basil stay in the drink and don't get out. We're going to use 1 ounce of fresh lime juice. If you don't have lime, use lemon. That's fine. It will taste a little different, but it will still work. At this point now we're going to use 1.5 ounces of the Roca Patron Silver. And then we're going to add ice and shake. We wait till the very last to add ice, since when we add ice, that's when our timer on the cocktail starts. We want to give this a nice shake, and if we do it right, the green from the basil will come out in the drink. All right. When we strain this drink, you can just use your strainer, if you have one, and adjust it like so to keep out some of the basil. If you have a fine tea strainer, that works as well. This drink can go over ice or into a cocktail glass. I like a cocktail glass from this. And it's got a beautiful green hue to it from the fresh basil. It'll really come out in the drink. And with the tequila, will come through beautifully. Our garnish is very simple. Just take a fresh basil leaf and put it right on top. Let it float like that. And there you have it, the tequila-based Roca Patron Basil Gimlet. Cheers.
Sam, it's no secret that Derek Carr had an off day against the Falcons last week.
But you know what, Cassie? That might not be the worst possible news for Carr this week. Ed Graney and Heidi Fang tell us why.
Yeah, thanks, team. It's Heidi Fang here with Ed Graney, and we're going to talk a little bit about Derek Carr. Now, his recent performance was a little bit of a debacle, Ed, but there's things that Carr has done really well throughout his tenure as the Raiders quarterback. So tell us what you think about what you've seen recently and what Derek Carr can really do.
Over his career of 7 years, I went back and looked at this. If you look at his worst game for a passer rating 1 week, he always plays much, much better the next week, sometimes exponentially so. Sometimes he's had his best games of his career following that down game. We know it was a down game against the Falcons. He throws the pick 6, he fumbles 3 times, turns it over 4 times. So I think what the Raiders are going to hope is that that trend continues this week with the Jets, and then he comes back and has a really strong effort.
Now let's hear from the Raiders offensive coordinator, Greg Olsen, on what he has to say about Carr's development.
He's improved every game. He's gotten better every season that we've been here, and so I think it being the 3rd year in the system certainly has helped him. But the improvement from game to game and from practice to practice has been apparent to us, and we like where he's at right now. He can certainly get better, and we expect him to get better as he expects himself to improve as well.
Ed, what have you made about Carr's relationship with Olsen over the years?
People don't really know this. A lot of people don't. In 2014, when Derek Carr was a rookie, he had a point there in training camp where he really wondered if football is what he wanted to do. You know, he's a very faithful guy. He thought maybe he'd be a pastor. Greg Olsen was one of the people who said to him, hey, you have to look inward here. You have to understand, is this what you really want to do? This is not easy. And if it's something else that's calling you, you should do that. Well, he stuck with football. Greg Olsen has taught him what they like to refer to as the winning routine. And that is, it changes every week based on opponent, but it doesn't change on what you think about, when you throw, what film you watch, when you do certain things during the week. And it's this routine that Derek Carr has bought into under Greg Olsen, I think has really helped him. Olsen was there his rookie year. Now he's back with John Gruden the last 3 years. Everyone talks about the Gruden relationship. I want to say that the Greg Olsen relationship, maybe not as important, but probably a lot more important than people realize, given Gruden's such a strong influence with the offense.
There you have it from Ed Graney, our Review Journal sports columnist. Now back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Heidi. Sam, we know one person we always look forward to seeing on Vegas Nation Game Day, and that is Review Journal photographer Kevin Cannon.
That's right, Cassie. This week, Kevin took the Vegas Nation truck to Las Vegas Motor Speedway, where he took in a colorful holiday tradition.
Hi, Cassie. It's all about giving back this time of year. The Raiders give back to the community, and so do we here at Vegas Nation. It's Review Journal Community Night here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Glittering lights, drive-through spectacular. So grab some hot chocolate and kettle corn and come along for the ride. Vegas Nation! We had, Cassie. My favorite part, of course, the Sports Tribute Alley. Every Las Vegas team is here, including, of course, the Las Vegas Raiders. Where will the Vegas Nation truck take me next week? Back to you in the studio.
If that doesn't get you in the holiday spirit, Sam, I don't know what will.
I don't either. The lights, the music, it's beginning to look a lot
incredible.
Like Christmas. Yeah,
we need to give
was.
a very special shout out to Review Journal photographer Elizabeth Broomley, who shot the video of Kevin while he was driving the truck. So good. Well, Sam, let's go ahead and take a trip across the league. Our Allegiant Stadium insider Mick Aker is reporting that the Rams and Chargers could have their home games moved to Las Vegas.
Yeah, Cassie, I mean, with the coronavirus restrictions and everything going on in Southern California and Northern California, as mentioned by Heidi, about with the Niners moving their games to Arizona, Vegas has emerged as a viable option, and it makes sense, right? I mean, this was one of the cities that was discussed to house the NBA playoffs, an NBA bubble, the WNBA bubble. We know that they have the hotel space to house teams and to have extra teams in town, and then, of course, Allegiant Stadium being super close in proximity to these teams' homes. So it makes a lot of sense. We'll see what happens if those restrictions in Southern California force that kind of move. We hope not, but Las Vegas is certainly a willing partner, willing to help any team, any market in league. And John Gruden touched on that on Friday, said, yeah, if we got to do what we got to do, if our city has to help out, we're all in this coronavirus fight together. So we'll see what happens. It'd certainly be an interesting development if that were to take place. And there'd be three football teams in Vegas after not having one for forever.
That would really be something, wouldn't it?
I know, right? Yeah.
Well, free agent linebacker and former Raider Vontaze Burfict was arrested in Nevada on a misdemeanor battery charge, Sam.
Yeah, very unfortunate situation here. Burfict, of course, played for the Raiders last season. Only played 4 games. Was suspended for the remainder of the season after a helmet-to-helmet hit on Jack Doyle of the Indianapolis Colts. He garnered a reputation throughout his time in the NFL as one of the most physical, excessively physical players on the field, and that looks like that may have trickled off the field as well. Very unfortunate. We'll see what happens with the legal proceedings, but never worked out with Burfict with the Raiders, and unfortunately doesn't seem to be working out too well for him off the field post NFL as well.
So to come on Vegas Nation Game Day, we'll take a look at today's social media.
And after the break, Heidi Fang looks at the most famous game in Raiders Jets history. We'll be right back.
Stay on the winning page with Fan Fave Las Vegas Review Journal to receive Vegas Nation content, plus breaking news, local entertainment, and lifestyle coverage. For only 99 cents a week, you'll get home delivery plus unlimited access to LVRJ.com. However you like it, whenever you like it. award-winning content, all at your fingertips. Subscribe today at mylvrj.com/superfan.
Vegas Nation Blitz is your weekly source for Raiders news.
We're going to stick together, bond together. We're going to make some changes.
Vegas Nation Blitz brings you fast takes and smart coverage.
When you look at the drop passes, that's concentration. It's not talent.
Vegas Nation Blitz, new episodes airing every Wednesday at 8 p.m.
Our Vegas Nation podcast keep you up to date with all things Raiders. Get your week going with First and 10 on Mondays featuring Sam Gordon and Vinny Bonsignor.
Who do you count on to make a big play when you need one?
Wednesdays, Heidi Fang brings you in-depth interviews with Raiders players and personalities.
You know it's a great challenge.
On Fridays, get your dose of Raiders talk and musings from Ed Graney and Adam Hill with unsportsmanlike conduct.
Should there be any discipline? No. People are going to get it, and that's fine.
Vegas Nation, fast takes, smart coverage.
Today's replay is sponsored by De Castro Verde Law Group. Our motivation is you.
It was November 17th, 1968, and the Raiders were hosting the Jets in Oakland. As penalties, injuries, and back-and-forth scoring started to mount, the time of the game was edging closer to 7 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time. Only one thing could overshadow what would take place on the gridiron: the NBC debut of their made-for-TV film, Heidi. That film was supposed to air exactly at 7 p.m. Eastern on the network. As the Jets and the Raiders game came down to the wire, NBC network executives made the call to hold off on airing the movie to broadcast the game in its entirety. However, the phone lines over at NBC Studios were so clogged with callers trying to find out if the game would continue to air or if the movie would come on that the switchboard blew and the executives could not get their messages to the control room. So promptly at 7 p.m., the movie Heidi aired. At the time it started, the Jets were ahead 32-29. There was a little over 1 minute remaining in the game. On the next drive, Raiders quarterback Daryl LaMonica connected with Charlie Smith for a 43-yard touchdown, and the Raiders took a 36-22 lead. The New York Jets return man Earl Christie fumbled the ball at the Jets' 12-yard line. The Raiders scored again and took a 43-32 lead. The only fans to see the dramatic outcome of the game were those in attendance at the Oakland Coliseum. Viewers back home were looking at Heidi on a mountaintop. Networks not only changed their policies following this incident to air games in their entirety, but NBC also had Heidi phones installed to prevent a similar issue from ever happening with communications again.
Cassie Soto here with Sam Gordon. Well, Raiders quarterback Derek Carr has had one heck of a week, Sam.
That's right, Cassie. On Thursday, the team announced that Carr is a nominee for the NFL's Art Rooney Sportsmanship Award. This is the 5th year that he has been nominated for the award, which Raiders legend and Pro Football Hall of Fame semifinalist Charles Woodson won in 2015.
That's right. But in even bigger news this week, Sam, Derek Carr and his wife Heather welcomed a baby girl on Monday. Brooklyn May Carr was born at 6 p.m., weighing in at 7 pounds, 12 ounces. Here's what the proud papa had to say about his brand new baby daughter.
It would have been nice to come off a big win, and then have my little girl, but I didn't have to wait all week to have a smile on my face. I was able to, let me rephrase that. I didn't do anything. Heather did all the work, but I was able to hold my baby daughter in my arms for the first time. And as you could imagine, that put a smile on my face and kind of regrouped me to get going this week.
He is just so proud to be a hashtag girl now, Sam. Well,
at this
point in this show, we're used to hearing Ed Graney give us his hot takes on the upcoming game.
But this week, Cassie, Ed called an audible. He spoke with UNLV Athletic Director Desiree Reed-Francois. They were supposed to be enjoying the sun and waves in Hawaii for the Maui Invitational, but instead they were in Asheville, North Carolina, watching some college hoops. Here's what they had to say.
Hey, everyone, it's Ed Graney. This week for Hot Takes, we're going to do a little different spin. I'm going to have a conversation with UNLV Athletic Director Desiree Reed-Francois. Hello, Desiree.
Hello, Ed. It's great to see you. Thank you for being here in Asheville.
Yes, we're here in Asheville, North Carolina for the basketball team in the Maui Invitational. I do want to ask you, though, about Allegiant Stadium. So you were able to have fans at 2 games, and then because of protocols and other statutes, you had to take that off and not have fans now to close out the season. What have been the challenges for you as an athletic director with a new coach and a new program kind of to market under Marcus Arroyo with this pandemic? How challenging has it been?
It's been a challenge, but everybody across the country is experiencing the same kinds of challenges. And our highest priority is to make sure that we're putting on an event that's safe and healthy for our student athletes, our coaches, and our fans. And so we cannot wait until next season when we can really showcase this spectacular stadium and everybody can be a part of a really special event.
Tell me what you think of Allegiant Stadium. Going there for games, is it as great as you thought? I know you want fans there. I know you want that kind of atmosphere like Mark Davis does with the Raiders, but just give me your thoughts about Allegiant Stadium.
Allegiant Stadium is spectacular. The customer service is first class. Everything is just world class about this stadium. And it's really a source of pride to be able to play in such an amazing venue. So we're really proud and we're really fortunate to be able to play at Allegiant.
Finally, I want to ask you, you're an administrator, but you're a teacher first, and that's imparting life lessons, not only to your son, but to student athletes. But what has the pandemic, do you think, taught you? What I asked TJ Oskenberger this last week, and I know people have talked to Coach Roy about this. What has this whole time taught you as an administrator in college athletics and as a teacher?
Appreciate every single moment. You never know when you're not going to have an opportunity to play or to see your student athletes do what they absolutely love. And regardless of the score, to be able to see them run out on that field, it's just really special. I found myself almost getting emotional when that first game actually occurred, because so much went into trying to make it a reality. And when it actually was, my heart was just filled. So I think take every moment and don't take them for granted.
Wonderful stuff there. Well, there you have it. A few minutes with Desiree Reed. Francois, Desiree, we thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. And I don't know if when you look outside your window, if you see snow and you don't see palm trees, but does that exactly just signify 2020?
It really does. It really does. I think we both prefer palm trees. Thanks, Desiree.
Thank you.
There she is, Desiree Reed Francois. Now let's find out what's happening with social media.
This social media update is sponsored by D&R House of Diamonds, making luxury affordable.
Let's go ahead and look at this post from Sturgis, who is channeling his inner Grogu, or Baby Yoda, as he gets ready for this game. I'm not a Star Wars person, Sam. I don't know about you.
I'm not a Star Wars person either, Cassie, believe it or not. But, hey, it looks cool. I mean, Chandler looks like he's calm and trying to get ready for a big game. And the Raiders need this one, and Sturgis knows it.
They do. Well, next up is Tori Peterson, who is using her Christmas tree to show her love for the silver and black. I love this.
That's a nice spin on the holiday season, on the festivities, being a sports fan, but also being up for the holidays and having a holiday spirit at the same time.
So good. Well, let's go ahead and get a status check. First, it looks like cornerback Damon Arnett will be able to play today.
Yeah, definitely. And the Raiders need him outside. He, as a rookie, it's been up and down for him. I mean, he's missed time. He's been banged up. He's been healthy. He's been banged up. It's kind of been a cycle over and over for him. But crucial to have him out there against the Jets. You don't want to see that Jets passing game find any type of rhythm, and they're going to need Damon Arnett to play well in order to do that.
On the other side of the ball, Devontae Booker will be the feature running back today. And Coach John Gruden said we will also see Theo Riddick in this game, Sam.
Yeah, like we said, Cassie, Devontae Booker does a lot of what Josh Jacobs does. He's not quite as powerful of a runner. I mean, he doesn't break the tackles at the same volume that Jacobs does, but he can run in between the tackles, he can get outside, and he can catch the ball. As far as Theo Riddick is concerned, he was one of the best pass-catching running backs in the NFL with the Detroit Lions from 2014 to 2018. So I expect the Raiders to get him involved a little bit as a scat back, maybe try and get him on the perimeter and get him in some of those options and choice routes.
We will get some final thoughts on today's game when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
Stay on the winning page with Fan Fave Las Vegas Review Journal to receive Vegas Nation content, plus breaking news, local entertainment, and lifestyle coverage. For only 99 cents a week, You'll get home delivery plus unlimited access to LVRJ.com. However you like it, whenever you like it. Award-winning content, all at your fingertips. Subscribe today at mylvrj.com/superfan.
Vegas Nation Blitz is your weekly source for Raiders news.
We're going to stick together, bond together. We're going to make some changes.
Vegas Nation Blitz brings you fast takes and smart coverage.
When you look at the drop passes, that's concentration. It's not talent.
Vegas Nation Blitz, new episodes airing every Wednesday at 8 p.m.
Our Vegas Nation podcast keep you up to date with all things Raiders. Get your week going with First and 10 on Mondays featuring Sam Gordon and Vinny Bonsignor.
Who you can count on to make a big play when you need one.
Wednesdays, Heidi Fang brings you in-depth interviews with Raiders players and personalities.
You know it's a great challenge.
On Fridays, get your dose of Raiders talk and musings from Ed Graney and Adam Hill with unsportsmanlike conduct.
Should there be any discipline? No. People are going to get it, and that's fine.
Vegas Nation, fast takes, smart coverage.
The Road Ahead is sponsored by the Richard Harris Law Firm. Just in case. Injured? Call 444-4444.
Remember, you can read more about this game in a special Vegas Nation Game Day section in today's Review Journal. Ed Graney looks at quarterback Derek Carr's dream season, which got a little less dreamy last Sunday. And Sam Gordon looks at the plight of Jets quarterback Sam Darnold and what might happen to him when the season is over. It's all in today's Review Journal, or you can find it on newsstands now, or you can start a subscription by visiting reviewjournal.com. Welcome back to Vegas Nation Game Day. I'm Cassie Soto. Now let's look at the road ahead with our Vegas Nation crew of Heidi Fang, Ed Graney, and Vinny Bonsignor.
Yeah, thanks, team. It's Heidi Fang, Ed Graney, and Vinny Bonsignor, and we're going to get to this AFC playoff picture for you here. The road ahead is going to be one that the Raiders are going to need to really focus in on a lot of these key games down the stretch. Vinny, what team do you think is the most key for them going down the road here?
I think it's the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins right now are a game ahead of the Raiders, but the Raiders play them in 3 weeks. And the key to that whole thing, to me anyway, is if you look at the Dolphins schedule after Sunday, who they play the Bengals, a winnable game, but then they have to play the Patriots, the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Raiders. All four of those teams, including the Raiders, obviously, are making a playoff push. There's a lot of motivation for the teams that the Dolphins are playing ahead of them in and around the Raiders game. So there's probably a couple of losses in there for the Dolphins if you look at it on paper. So that's an opportunity for the Raiders to beat a team that's right in front of them, get a little bit of help along the way from some other teams that are playing the Dolphins to really secure their playoff spot in the AFC wildcard playoff chase.
Now, I'm going to go with the Colts, another AFC South team here that I think is going to be in that mix when we come down the road in the wildcard picture. Right now, 7-4, second place in the AFC South. The Indianapolis Colts, though, one thing about them, Phillip Rivers, hot and cold. You never know which one you're going to get. So the Raiders are just going to have to bring their A game in this one. And Ed, what's yours?
This is going to sound crazy, but I'm going to the last game of the season, Heidi, January 3rd at Denver for one reason. It's going to mean everything or nothing. If the Raiders don't take care of business against the Jets, it could mean nothing. But if they do take care of business, there's going to be 2 or 3 teams, as you just mentioned, fighting for that third wild card spot, in my opinion. I think the Raiders have every chance to be one of them. We were in Denver last year, you and I, with a bunch of people from the paper, where a million things had to happen for the Raiders to get in. They didn't win the game anyway. It might be that kind of situation. I don't think there'll be that many things that need to be happening. But if they're in it there at the end, that Denver game is going to be absolutely huge, in my opinion. The last game of the year could get them out or mean that they're in.
All right, great stuff, everybody. That'll do for us here. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, team. Sam, let's get your final thoughts on the Raiders and the Jets today.
Well, Cassie, we can take a look at all the numbers. We can break down the offense. We can break down the defense. We can do all of those things. But let's be honest here. This is the New York Jets. They are 0-11, like Ed talked about. If the Raiders do not win this game, if they do not take care of business against not only the worst team in the NFL, but you talk historically, this Jets team is shaping up to be one of the worst NFL teams ever, if not the worst NFL team ever. If the Raiders do not take care of business, they do not deserve the merit of one of those playoff spots. With that said, I expect them to play much better this week than they did last week against the Atlanta Falcons, and frankly, they couldn't really play much worse than they did last week. The Jets defense is vulnerable against the pass. It is okay against the run, but not great by any means. We talked Wednesday defensively. They can't stop anybody, and frankly, they can't score with anybody. So if the Raiders can get out to an early lead, 7-0, 10-0, 14-0, 17-3, that type of thing, the Jets cannot play from behind at all. I expect the Raiders to try and start fast, get off to one of those early leads, and then get into their running game, and then get into their play action game with Derek Carr. Like Ed talked about, he's really good bouncing back after poor performances. I expect this Raiders coaching staff to bounce back after one of their not one of their best games, of course, 43-6 last week. They know what's at stake. Everybody knows what's at stake. You know what's at stake. I know what's at stake. The team does. With that said, I expect them to play much, much better. Again, we'll see. I didn't think they were going to lose to the Falcons, and they did any given Sunday. But as bad as the Falcons are, the Jets are that much worse. This is a game that they, again, have no business losing. They should win this game. And then, as those guys talked about, and Heidi, the road ahead, they'll be in the thick of this playoff race. It is fascinating. It is interesting. I cannot wait for what happens the rest of the season. But first things first, Raiders, Jets today. Any minute now, actually, within the next 5 minutes or so, game is going to be kicked off. Happy to be with everybody this morning to prep Raiders, Jets. I can't wait.
Well, Sam, I just got to ask you here quickly, what would a loss in this game do for the Raiders' playoff chances? I think you mentioned it there off the top. Would it knock them out completely?
I mean, not completely, but then they would have to pretty much win out. And again, Indianapolis is good. The Miami Dolphins are good. The Chargers, that's a division rival. And that game, as we know, the first game in LA was extremely competitive. Came down to the very final play, rather, that fade pattern in the back corner of the end zone. And then on the road against Denver, it might be cold, it might be snowy. We have no idea what that game is going to look like. Frankly, with as tight as this thing is, you cannot afford to lose to the 0-11 New York Jets. You just can't do it. So
right.
It's a fun playoff picture. We'll see what happens, Cassie.
We will see. Thank you, Sam, so much. Well, that will do it for this episode of Vegas Nation Game Day. We'll see you on Wednesday for Vegas Nation Blitz on Cox Your View. Thank you so much.